guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. Today, I wanted to tell you guys a story, and I thought that it would be fun to tell you this story while I did my makeup because, I don't know, then you have something to watch me do while I tell you about this horrific thing that Sam and I had to go through. I'm gonna put my hair back because I curled it already and then realized that my camera was not charged, and so then I had to go do some work up in the office and wait for my camera to charge. Long story short, there's my little sumo bun. So I'm just gonna start off by moisturizing my face. I'm gonna use this Perricone MD Nourishing Moisturizer. My skin's been pretty sensitive lately. It's been breaking out. It's actually like a lot better right now. Let me zoom you guys in. Ooh, that's a little far. But as you can see, I kind of had like a lot of breakouts right here and then also up here. I've been using that Nizoral product. Ooh, this is a little bit, whoop, there we go. I've been using that Nizoral product. It's an anti-dandruff shampoo, but it also kills the, not bacteria, but the yeast, I guess, that causes fungal acne. And that's, I think, what I have because I've been using it like crazy and I feel like it's finally working. And somebody also told me to wash my face right after I go to the gym, and that's actually been helping because apparently this is what happens when you work out. Your pores expand and then obviously you're sweating and it releases all of like the oils and stuff like that, but then when you start to cool down, your pores shrink, and then if you don't wipe off all of that shit, you're just like leaving it on your face. And I think that that's what was happening to me, was I was getting these like bacterial breakouts from working out so hard not washing my face right after. So anyway, long story short, I'm trying to use gentler products on my skin right now because that was like 2 weeks of just like the worst. Not the worst, that's a little dramatic, but I didn't like it. So today's story is a story of loss, the loss of my innocence, okay? It's a story about Bikram Yoga. If you guys don't know what Bikram Yoga is, I'll link a documentary down in the description box. It's actually like a pretty upsetting documentary because there are a lot of really bad, I don't even want to call them allegations because there's like no doubt in my mind that 100% it's like all the allegations are true. But anyway, it tells you kind of a little bit about the guy who started Bikram and about the allegations and stuff. Just trigger warning, there's like it's basically centered around like sexual abuse and stuff like that. But it also tells you like about Bikram Yoga. But this story time is just a little bit more like lighthearted because it's a Bikram studio that I didn't realize was Bikram necessarily that we went to. So for the purposes of this video, it's more so just like Sam and I dying inside about having to do this Bikram yoga. I've practiced yoga for quite a while now. I would say like 5 years. I really, really enjoy yoga. I feel like it helps your mind, it helps your body, it helps your stretch. Like there's so much scientific research about what it does to the chemicals in your brain as well. I can't remember what the actual thing was, but it affects like GABA and like all of your happy hormones and stuff like that when you're practicing regularly. I really like yoga. I like doing moksha yoga or moto yoga generally, and apparently that was started in Canada, or by two Canadians, sorry, in 2004. And I didn't know that. I had no idea about the origin of moksha/moto yoga. And I didn't understand when I started doing it, it was moksha and then it changed to moto, but apparently they call it moto in the US and like around the world. And then in Canada, they were calling it moksha, and now they've like made a switch. I don't know. Let me know if that's correct. Anyway, I'm gonna go in with this YSL Touche Éclat foundation, and I'm gonna mix it with the Charlotte Tilbury Light Wonder foundation because this one's too deep for my skin tone right now, and this one's too light for my skin tone. So together they will be in perfect harmony. When I first moved to Vancouver, Sam was kind of in this, Sam's my best friend for those of you who don't know, I'm sure you know. Sam was kind of in this feeling that she wanted to like try new classes and like try new ways of working out and stuff like that. And I was super down because at the time I wasn't super confident about my body. I was still drinking and I had just come back from Toronto where I was a bar manager. I'm just going in with my beauty blender. And I was eating a lot of like pizza and drinking a lot of beer and stuff like that. So I was super down to be a little bit more adventurous with like my workouts and stuff like that. And the yoga studio that I usually practiced at was about a half an hour drive from where we live currently. Whereas when I lived in Vancouver the first time, it was down the street. So I was trying to convince Sam to go to this yoga studio that I used to go to, and she suggested that we go to the one that's quite close to our house. And I was like, well, that makes sense. And I was ready and willing. So we decided that we would. So we looked up this yoga studio and they had like an intro offer for like $40 where you could go for 2 weeks unlimited and practice yoga. And I was really excited because I like I said, I really believe in yoga, and Sam was a little bit skeptical of if she would like it or not. People like rave and rave about yoga and how it changed their life, and Sam just in general, I feel like, is a little bit skeptic about that. And I was like, dude, no, like it really did change my life. Like when I was doing yoga every day, I was like so fucking zen. I was so flexible. My body felt good. My back wasn't hurting. I was like, yoga is the truth, okay? We end up going to this yoga studio and signing up. And immediately when we walked in, I was kind of taken aback by how clinical the studio looked. It just was like walking into a dentist office, I guess, whereas the yoga studios that I like to practice at are generally a little bit more like, in my mind, on brand. So, you know, like earth tones. I like the vibe to be a little bit more zen. I don't know. I don't really know how to explain it. I wish that I could show you guys my favorite yoga studio, but I can't, because then you can come and watch me sweat, and that's embarrassing. There's nothing embarrassing about doing yoga. Anyway, so I was kind of taken aback by that at the start. Sam and I, however, decided to still try this, trying not to judge a book by its cover. So we sign up for the 2-week like intro trial where we can go as many times as we want. We go into the locker rooms, get changed or whatever we did. I think I already showed up in my outfit or whatever. And class was about to start, so we put down our mats in the room. The room, you guys, was like, it was massive. Like I'm used to yoga studios, like rooms where they're like kind of smaller, more intimate, lights are low, maybe there's music on, a little aromatherapy situation. This was like, the foam on the ground reminded me of like child daycare, like, you know, like those foam things that like go like this, they like intertwine or whatever. That's what it reminded me of. The colors were all fucked up, like they were mismatched. The the yoga teacher had like this, you know, those like big blocks that people like in the gym like jump up onto? It was kind of like that. And she was like, I'm pretty sure she was like sitting on this block, which after watching the documentary about Bikram, he would do that as well. He would like sit on like so high on like this chair and whatever. It was just really weird. Anyway, so we set up our mats and there's like 60 people in here. And that's a lot of people in a yoga studio, in my opinion. The room was so fucking hot. I can't even describe it to you. It says online that Bikram yoga does like 40 degrees Celsius, 40% humidity. Same with moksha/moto yoga, 40%, 40 degrees. This room was hotter than Australia, okay? It was hotter than anywhere I've ever been. It was like a fucking steam room, but minus the steam, you know? So like a sauna. It was so hot. I walked in there and I was literally like I got chills because of how hot it was. Anyway, I'm like, wow, this is a little bit of a hot room in here. So we set down our mats. And I can't remember if we were like just in Shavasana or whatever, or like what we were doing. I can't remember. I tried to black it out because it was such a horrific experience. And it's time for like the class to start. I'm just gonna go in with this Urban Decay Beached Bronzer and Bronzed and this Smith 118 brush because I really like using it. And it's dirty because I tried to film this video yesterday. The class starts and this instructor is yelling at us. The yoga that I practice, they come in quietly, they raise the lights a little bit, they say, hello and welcome, thank you for sharing your breath with us today. We're gonna start by wiggling our fingers and our toes. No, this bitch comes in and she's like, stand up! And she was like a drill sergeant, dude. I'm like, damn, what did I sign up for? And she was like yelling at us, she's like, stand up, feet apart, foot to knee. I'm like, going on here? I was like so taken aback. For me, I like working out. I like it when my body hurts. I like it when people push me. I was like, okay, this is like a little bit intense for me, but I'm willing to give it a shot. Meanwhile, Sam's over there being like, what the hell did I get myself into? Like, is this what Alyssa likes? Alyssa likes this shit? And I'm just like, okay, because you can't talk in yoga, right? Like, I can't be like, what the fuck is happening, Sam? So we managed to get, I think, like 15 minutes into this sequence. So yoga, you usually have poses that go through a sequence, if that makes sense. If you don't do yoga, it's a little bit like more confusing. Bikram, you have 26 poses, I think, and 2 breathing techniques. And I think we got through like maybe 5 of these poses. And I was like dripping sweat. My like vision was going blurry. I was like seeing spots. I was like, I think I might pass out. And in Bikram, you're not allowed to drink water until a certain point. I can't remember when that point is. I think it might be after 5 poses. But anyway, it was at the point where we still weren't allowed to drink water. And Sam goes to grab a drink of water because she's also dying. And the teacher starts yelling at her in front of the whole class, like, no water, you can't drink water. And then Sam's like, okay. Like, puts down her bottle. I feel like for me, I don't know what I would have done in that situation, but like, I'm a rule follower, like through and through as well. But I'm also quite confrontational, and I think that a lot of people would be surprised about that. But in like situations like that, I'd be like, oh hell no, bitch, I'm drinking this water, okay? Sam like puts back down her bottle, and a couple more poses later, a couple minutes later, whatever it was, she sits down. I'm still up there like trying to like work through it because I get like pretty embarrassed if I can't do something. Like I would rather just like almost die than like admit defeat basically. So I'm still up there trying to do poses. And later on, Sam told me that when she was sitting down there, she was like, this bitch is crazy. Like Alyssa is fucking nuts. Like I am never doing this again. I can't believe she likes this shit. And I was like feeling the same way as Sam. I was like, I just have to get through this. Like I just have to get through this. So Sam's sitting down or laying down or something like that, just like trying to like gather herself. And the instructor again calls Sam out by name and is like, come on, Sam, like, why don't you join us? Like, why don't you try to keep up? Like, all this shit, like, basically, like, heckling her in front of the whole class, which to me is just, like, not, like, what yoga is, like, supposed to embody, in my opinion. And, like, who am I to say? But, like, that's my experience. Like, I feel like yoga should be, like, honoring your body, honoring your breath, and, like, who you are, like, all of that stuff, not, like, get the fuck up, lazy. She's calling Sam out by name, and Sam's like, But Sam, like, gets back up and, like, tries to keep going, and then she gets, like, a couple minutes in again, and then she sits down again, and I think she drank water at that point. And at that point, I honestly thought I was going to throw up. And something that I learned later on about Bikram yoga is that when they would do, like, teacher training and stuff like that, people would throw up, and people would be, like, getting really sick and, like, dehydrated, and, like, even they weren't allowed to use the washroom and stuff like that. So it seemed more... gosh, I don't even know, like just like so intense. And I wish I had known that before I went to Bikram. But anyway, so I decided that I was going to sit down as well. I was like, man, even I can't do this. Like, this is crazy. And I probably could have pushed through if Sam wasn't there. But like her deciding for her body that she was ready to sit down, I was like, all right, man, like what am I really gaining from like treating my body like this? Like, see you fucking later. I am feeling like that bronzer isn't building up very much on camera, but in person it is, so I'm gonna stop there. And I'm gonna go in with this Dior Skin Nude Air Glowing Gardens highlighter. It looks like this. And I'm gonna go in with the Smith 133 brush and just beep, and go on the apples of my cheeks. So I sit down as well, and I look over at Sam and I'm like, do you wanna go? And Sam was like, hallelujah to ya. Hell yeah, I wanna go, are you joking? In yoga, I've seen people do this at Moto as well. If you're not feeling well or you just need like a break or something like that, usually you go into Shavasana, which is like corpse pose or laying down, usually with your hands facing upward, palms to the sky. But sometimes I've seen people leave as well. If you decide to leave, if you pack up your yoga mat and your yoga towel and everything like that, it's kind of disruptive, and I really don't like being disruptive. So... and it's a little on my nosy. So I just told Sam to leave everything. We would just hang out in the studio and we would collect our things like at the end of class as to not disrupt the rest of the troops being mobilized. We get up and the instructor starts like yelling at us. She's like, where are you going? And I was like, oh, we're going, like we're not doing this. And she was just like heckling us, and I basically like made it apparent that like this was not changing, like we were leaving and that we would grab our stuff afterwards in front of the whole class. Like this was not like a like side-by-side conversation. So Sam and I go into the little change rooms and I lay down. I'm just gonna take this Anastasia eyebrow brush. It's a 7B brush, and I'm gonna spoolie up my eyebrows. I'm like laying on the little bench that's in there because I literally thought I was gonna pass out. Something that happens to me if I get dehydrated while I'm working out or if I'm tired or something like that is I'll get migraines. And so my migraines present quite different than what a lot of people have described to me. So I get migraines with aura, but also they present so interestingly that I can't talk, I can't type, I can't like see, I can't. It's almost like my brain is like malfunctioning basically. And so I was starting to feel this way, like this was going to happen to me. So I just laid down and was trying to drink water and like stave off the migraine because they last for so long for me and it's just like really scary and embarrassing. So anyway, long story short, I'm laying down on this shit. Sam is like sitting up, just like both of us are like, what the fuck just happened? I think we only lasted 45 minutes in that shit. As we're sitting there talking shit, let me grab my little brow gel. I'm just using this Milk Kush Clear Brow Gel. So anyway, as we're sitting there talking shit, the instructor comes in to the change room. And like, keep in mind, there's 58 other students practicing yoga in that fucking hell room. And she's in here talking to us. So she comes in and she's like, what are you doing? And we're like, trying not to die. She said, well, you can't be in here. I can't have you in here. And I was like, why? She's like, I can't have you in here unsupervised. And I'm like, we're 26-year-old adults. Like, I'm okay. If you're worried about like theft, sure, I guess. But like, what if somebody had to go to the washroom? Like, what do you mean you can't have us in here? Regardless, there should be another employee in this building. You have 60 people practicing yoga in a fucking sweat box. It's just you in here. You can't have us in here. I feel like that must be illegal. Isn't there like a ratio between like employee client situation? Like, this just sounds a little unsafe to me, lady. She was like, I can't have you in here. And I was like, we are not going back in there. Okay? This is not a negotiation thing. I'm not fucking stepping foot back into that torture chamber. Absolutely not. We decide that we are going to, I'm just going in with that same brush, but the other side, and just filling in my eyebrows with a powder from this Tartiste palette. And we're gonna sit in the lobby. And that's when I realized that there actually was nobody else in that studio at that time. The receptionist who had checked us in was out for lunch, man. She had pieced. She fucking flew the coop. She was like, I'm taking a little break for myself. So we literally were just sitting there by ourselves. There was one person for all 60 of us. Could you imagine if something had happened to anyone in there? There's one person that knows what to do. That's crazy to me. I feel like that has to be illegal. I don't know. Just as like from like a manager standpoint, I know that we had to have a certain amount of managers per bodies. Like, is that not a thing? Anyway, that chick finally ended up coming back and was like, oh, hi, like, what's going on? And we were like, this is crazy. This is not something that we will ever do again, basically. And usually I try to be pretty nice, but I was pretty fucking blunt. I was like, you guys are like, this is not a thing. And that receptionist went on to tell me about how there was a guy in there who was like never supposed to walk again, and he was coming to the yoga place and now he can walk just fine, and like all of these fucking testimonial stories. And I'm like, listen, nothing that you say is going to make me go back in there. That chick is fucking crazy. I'm scared for my life from her. Not because of the yoga, but just in general. I feel like she's gonna follow me home and preach to me about Bikram yoga. And then the receptionist said that, yeah, I mean, she is a little bit more old school. We do have some teachers who are a little bit more modern and whatever. And I was like, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm never fucking coming back here. And I'm pretty sure I said exactly that. 45 minutes again went by because it's a 90-minute class. And we go to pack up our stuff, and I literally just avoided eye contact with that instructor like crazy. I was like, I don't want to talk to this chick. You are nuts. And we packed up and left. A week later, I got a call from that yoga studio. My face is going red just thinking about it, because I was like, are you fucked? I literally sat there for 45 minutes bitching to that receptionist about how outrageous yoga, like that yoga is, about how outrageous that teacher was, about how I felt so uncomfortable, about how she approached us in the change room, just like all of these things. And she had the fucking audacity to call me and ask me how I was feeling. I was like, listen, lady, I'm never coming back here again. I don't recommend your studio. I don't recommend your practices. I don't recommend your business practices. This shit is fucking wild. So anyway, she ended up calling Sam as well. And Sam just, I don't think, answered. I answered stupidly. And yeah, I never went back to Bikram yoga again. There was actually a girl in my old job who was a Bikram yoga instructor. And she was like pretty fucking fit. I'm just gonna put this vintage color, this like basically my eye color, just like on my eyelid, just so that it's not as like greasy. Also, nobody come at me for my eyebrows, okay? I know that I suck at eyebrows. I don't want to talk about it. I'm really self-conscious about them. Yeah, she was like pretty fit, but I looked at her differently after that. I was like, how the fuck can you be like, this makes everything makes sense to me now. Because you are a little bit fucking wild. And yeah, then I watched that documentary and I was like, I can't believe that this yoga is even still being practiced, that people even support this type of yoga. Like, it's just so wild to me, the different types. I don't know, because this is the thing, is I don't just feel like yoga is an exercise. Like, it's not a boot camp, you know what I mean? Like, you don't go to yoga expecting to just get like a sick workout. I don't anyway. So I'm just so surprised that that's even like a thing that people are supporting. I don't know. Usually I try to keep an open mind about stuff and I'm like, you know, it's just not for me. It's not for everyone. Like, to each their own. That is not how I feel about Bikram. I don't think that that is a way to be introduced to yoga. I don't think that the origins of it are good, obviously. I just like, I'm so shocked. I'm just so shocked. Sam and I ended up going to my yoga studio quite a bit after that because Sam was traumatized. She felt a little bit better after I told her that no, that is not in fact the yoga that I practice on a daily basis. And she ended up loving Moto yoga. So that is a studio slash type of yoga that I do recommend is Moto yoga. There's also other like businesses, Y yoga and stuff like that, that they're not as crazy as Bikram, but they're still not as like spiritual and healing, in my opinion, as Moto yoga. But let me zoom you out. Sorry, my camera shut off because I am too cheap to buy a new camera. But I don't know where I was. But anyway, that is my story of Bikram yoga. That's it. If you are a Bikram yoga instructor or a Bikram yoga like student, I understand, I get it. But again, I'm not going to change my feelings about Bikram yoga ever. So it is just what it is. Anyway, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening to my story about how Sam and I almost died, basically. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.